Welcome to the Circle Sessions featuring the Circle of Experts. The Circle of Experts are Yasmine Robles from Robles Designs, Tonnisha English-Amamoo of TJE Communications, and Don the Idea Guy. I'm Brett Johnson from Circle 270 Media Podcast Consultants. Well, each week, one of the Circle of Experts joins me to talk about critical aspects of growing your podcast. We focus on marketing, social media, monetization, and website design to help you implement all of these together. This week, Yasmine's here from this Circle of Experts. Yasmine works alongside clients to design a website that's driven by strategy, looks amazing, and that you can actually use to grow your podcast and then in turn your business as well. Yasmine, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So you wanted to talk a little bit about auditing your website. And I think it's a really good idea because, I mean, everything always evolves. There's always things that might need to be changed. So let's dive into marketing audits for the small business website. So obviously, let's start simple. That's a good way to start a podcast. What's a marketing audit?
So basically a marketing audit is a health checkup for your business's marketing efforts. It's taking a deep dive into what's working, what's not working, and where you can improve. For small businesses and podcasters, this is really something that's important because every dollar that you're spending, every ounce of energy that you're putting into it, you want to make sure that it's going in the right direction. A few things to note, our marketing audits typically don't just look at the website though, they also look at what is happening throughout the entire ecosystem. That includes social media and email marketing, all the aspects of basically that ecosystem of marketing, just because you can build a great website, but if you don't do a lot of other marketing, it kind of slows down the growth. So we typically look at everything and see what's in the gap.
Gotcha. So let's talk about why should small businesses care about doing these audits? And I'm going to put on regularly, not just like once and it's done, but again, I don't want to say constantly, but on a regular pace.
Yeah, so it's in order to stay competitive for a small business and a podcaster. Regular audits can help you understand your customers, market trends, and see if your efforts are really hitting the mark. You can think of it as a yearly checkup. I know sometimes I miss mine, but you're supposed to go see your doctor every year, see what's going on, and see if there's any changes. I go to the dentist twice a year, so it's kind of these checkups to see if everything is working as it should and if your efforts are going in the right direction.
All right. Talk about the main areas that a marketing audit should cover for a small business website or a podcast website. Sometimes I guess what comes to mind too is sometimes it depends on how we use our website. Sometimes we don't even look at our website ourselves for weeks on end because maybe it's not e-commerce driven. So this is a good way to actually get you back on your website going, oh wow, that's really old. I don't do that anymore. Or, those pieces to it. So what are the areas that you do take a look at then?
Yeah, so we look at SEO performance is one of them. And SEO is always a hot topic, but really, how are you ranking on Google and how do you appear to Google and Bing and all of the other platforms? That includes domain authorities. Basically, what that means is how much oomph do you have against all of the other websites? And depending on the metric that you're using or the tool, it can go from 0 to 100, 100 being the best. And where do you land on that domain authority, and where do your competitors land and how do you compare to them? So keywords or key phrases that you're coming up for currently. So what we tend to look at is a lot of people come up for their own brand names. So we're currently doing one of the small suburbs of Columbus where we're doing their website, and they keep coming up for their own name. But if they were thinking a little bit outside the box, they could start coming out for things like the parks that are nearby, those sorts of keywords that people might be looking for, the speed of the website and accessibility of the website. And I know we've talked a lot about these topics in other episodes, so everyone can browse through those when we dive a little deeper into them. Content quality is also something that is very, very important. And is it engaging? Is it relevant to the user that you're targeting? there are many techniques. There's much that we could dive into when it comes to quality of content. But ideally, just remember that you create content for your site, and this means all of the written content on your site. Something you created that it is valuable and it is something that people want to read and just inspires them to continue to stay on the website. User experience. Is your site really easy and enjoyable to use? And this can come back to accessibility, and really what accessibility is. You can listen in on the previous episodes about that. But basically, is it for check your site for colorblind issues? Is it easy to tab through for people that can't use a mouse? Is the content, the color contrast between the text and the background sufficient for people with sight disabilities? Is the content really organized so that if let's say I'm a resident of an apartment building and I'm looking for all of the amenities list, can I easily find that on the website? And then really knowing what your audience and what they're looking for, because if the pages that I'm looking for aren't readily available, I'm probably going to go to your competitor. Social media integration. So really, how well do you use social media channels on your website? And not just on your website, but how do you lead them to the site, right? So your social media is important because it takes people to your website, and then from there, you hopefully get them onto your email list. And really, what's the strategy behind every post? Is there a call to action? Are you using the right content? For example, video tends to perform better than static posts. Are you on the right platform, or are you interacting with other accounts? And how is that comparing to your competitors? And conversion rates. Are you creating, once people get onto the website, are you actually turning those users into paying customers? What is that conversion rate, and how can we increase it?
All right.
So that was a lot.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. So it sounds as though you've got these 5 areas that you talked about. It looks as though before the marketing audit, you're probably going to have a conversation with that client about
Yeah.
what their expectations have been, and what they want them to be after the audit. Look at specific results from that audit to improve upon.
Yeah, so usually the call is about 90 minutes, so it's a pretty long call. There's a worksheet before we even do that, but it's the one of the most important calls. So we will ask you questions about your ROI. If you have an e-com site, it's how much money are you obtaining from certain products. If you have a podcast, what's your most popular podcast episode? And is that the case with the podcast episode page or transcript page on the website? So how did all these things correlate? And then really, what is your goal as the website, as the business owner, right? So if your goal is if you're just starting out and we're doing a website audit for you, or a marketing audit, and you say, you know what, I just kind of want to increase my listenership by just 5% for the rest of the year. Like it's not a big, I'm not going to triple it or anything. I just kind of want to go 5% more. Then we know your goal, and we can make those suggestions based on your goal.
Right. And a bigger picture of, okay, a little piece here of the website, a little piece here of this, a little piece here of that. Yeah, it makes a big difference. It makes sense. Yeah. So what kind of tools and techniques do you use for those audits then?
Yeah, so we use a couple of tools. I'm going to run through some paid and some free tools that you can use. Google Analytics, it's free. You can install it on any of your sites, Google Analytics and Google Search Console. Analytics is used to track the traffic, while Search Console we use to track things like the accessibility and keywords that you might be coming up for. One that I didn't jot down in my notes is Google Ads. Google Ads. You create a free account and then you cancel that ad. I think they still force you to create an ad, but you immediately cancel it. And then you go use their keyword planner tool, and you type in keywords that you believe your audience is looking for, and it'll tell you how many searches per month, what's the location, how hard is it to compete. So you can really get a good idea of where you want to go. Those are free. There's other ones, SEMrush or SEMrush. That one I think gives a free 7-day trial. But if you have 7 days and you want to take a deep dive into all of the nerdy numbers for the website and all of the keywords, that's a great one. Ahrefs is a nice one. It's a competitor to SEMrush. And Spyfu, SPYFU.com. It offers, I think, a couple of free searches. And all of these you can also, SEMrush, Ahrefs, and SpyFu, you can actually put your competitors in there and
Hmm.
see how these tools think that your competitors rank. And it's sometimes really eye-opening, and it'll make you feel a lot better about yourself sometimes
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
put in, a competitor that you see locally or another podcaster that is kind of a friend, but maybe also podcasting about the same topic. And
Mhm.
you're like, okay, I'm not doing that bad.
Hmm.
So those are good tools. User feedback. If you currently have users coming to your site, you can try a little pop-up as long as it's not a nuisance. A little pop-up asking them to take a survey. If you're on a podcast, you can say go to websitedomain.com/survey and take the survey, suggest topics. Just give the chance to your users to provide feedback, and then heat mapping tools. And what a heat map is, if you think of a storm, one of those maps of where the storm, they're tracking the storm, and the harder or more horrible the storm is,
Mhm.
the hotter the color gets. That's kind of a heat map, but it's for your website. And you can do it for email marketing as well, where you can see how far people are scrolling. You can see what they were clicking on the most or hovering over. So that tool is called Hotjar, and I believe they do have a free trial.
Yeah, if you've ever used, I don't know if all email newsletter platforms have this, but I think it's really cool in the vein of the heat maps of looking at the percentages of a newsletter where people click on and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool to kind of see that, oh, wow, that really worked. Or maybe it's just a one line of a mystery line of some kind, just kind of pique somebody's interest, and you
Mm-hmm.
have a high click rate on it. It's really interesting to see that and how your end users use your newsletter. So again, it's
Yeah.
the same concept of looking at
Mm-hmm.
how are they using your website.
Yeah, yeah. And it's super okay. So heat maps, sorry, I'm gonna nerd out for a little sec. So I know that small business owners, we can see, let's say I give you this entire marketing audit, and we provide you with a plan of action for
Mhm.
after you get you get to see what's going on, and then you get a plan of action of how to fix everything. But let's say you just get a marketing audit and you see all of these holes. Those tools, a heat map, all of those, if you take a look at them, it's a nice visual for you to break the gaps into chunks. So if you say, you know what, everybody on my site doesn't seem to want to scroll, or maybe they're scrolling but they're not clicking on anything. Maybe you focus on one page, let's say the home page, and you edit that home page and you track it for another month, and then you go back and see where are the changes that I made effective with that heat map. That way you don't feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing, right? As a small business owner, sometimes we're a solopreneur. Sometimes we just have a very small team and nobody really
Yeah.
takes charge of the marketing aspect, or maybe there is a marketer, but they don't have time to look at the stats. And so taking it one step at a time is ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this sounds like a really cool toolkit. Can you give some common findings from these audits and how small businesses can fix them?
Yeah, so a couple of some common issues that come up
Hmm.
are poor SEO practices. And this is not, I mean, these issues are not a hit on anyone. We all do what we do best. And so like I do not clean. My husband does. He does that best. So I don't want anybody to feel, again, overwhelmed about any of these, but very commonly poor SEO practices. And what we focus on is just education, and really what are the high level things that you could be doing to just get a really good foundation on those things. So is it making sure you have meta descriptions? Is it alt text? And we can get into the weeds of what those are, but basically, what can you have as easy wins so that when you do say, you know what, I do have time to write 4 1,000 word articles every month, you have a good foundation on all of the other things that you have written, whether it's the homepage, the about page, or other articles. Slow load times, these usually are on optimized code, and sometimes it's really large images. So there's a couple of quick things that you can do. It depends on your platform, but you can always, for example, if it is a large image, you can make sure that it's no wider than 2,500 pixels. You can run it through an optimizer. You can do a couple things. You can rename the file. This will help with SEO. You rename the file whatever the description is. So if it is a black and white cat sitting on a rug, the file literally will say black and white cat sitting on a rug. Now, if you want to add a little bit, I know there's a battle between SEO specialists and these techniques for accessibility, but you could add black and white cat sitting on a rug in a Columbus, Ohio home, I guess. But you still have to be descriptive because that's what screen readers will use. And then just confusing navigation. I see it all of the time where people, I don't know where to go, where to click on. Sometimes there's no contact page. Sometimes it's just a lot of different wording. So instead of saying about, they might say something cutesy, but I have no idea what it means, right? Or a button says something cutesy and it's cool. But what if I am not, let's say it's an inside joke about Friends and I have never seen Friends because I grew up on telenovelas. So I might not get that joke and I will be very confused. So just make sure your navigation, your buttons are clear and to the point and actually spell out what I'm going to be clicking into.
Yeah. Now, your audit results, I'm assuming it's going to be a combination of easy wins, but also prioritizing
Mm-hmm.
what should be done first to kind of
Yes.
really feel that the love come back kind of quickly.
Yeah. So the way we organize it, and I say we, but it's really my team. Um, the way we organize is we say, here are some of the issues, and then here is a broken down list of how you can tackle them. What is the topmost thing that you really have to do and by when? What are the other things that you could tackle, but maybe when you have time?
Mm-hmm.
And then we look forward into the future. So if we found some issues on your site, fix those. And then based on the goals that we talked about during our call and during the workshops, then how can we help you get there? And what does that timeline look like? So if you are focusing in on SEO, what we typically do is I think it's a 90-day, 60 or 90, I think it's a 90-day overall high level view of your content strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, for example, if you are selling water bottles and your goal is to rank for water bottles, what would that content strategy look like for a blog, email campaign, social media, and what are the topics and what are the keywords that you're going to go after? And then you come in and say, okay, for month one, these are what I'm going to work on. And then you can then write the blog post, but the basic idea generation and timeline is done for you. So you don't have to, you can ease into it, right?
Yeah.
Because as business owners, we're always busy. So you can ease into that content creation. And then you can spread it out. We always, what we do is really educate. So we'll tell you, you know what, this is what you can do in the next 90 days to hit your goals. But if you're like, you know what, I have kids, I'm a solopreneur, I do not have time for all of that. I have to take my kids to soccer practice. We can then say, all right, so if you spread it out into 6 months, into 1 year, this is what your end result could be. So we completely understand both sides of the coin of wanting to really push forward, but also we have lives.
Yeah.
So we help you navigate that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's also the time to do a self-realization of how much your time is worth.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something that yes, you can do, and some things that I'm sure that audit it's going to be on the website owner, like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
blog writing or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, there's a lot of things you can get off your plate by having someone else do it for you,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you want it done more quickly. You guys can do that too, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it just depends on the priorities and the dollar amount, of course, but it's that sometimes it's just, I come to the realization, I am not going to get this done. I need help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say it gets rid of that paralysis of having to learn. So, for example, we use SEMrush, and you would have to learn how to use
Yeah.
that tool, and there's that learning curve before you fully take um, the full use of it, right? And we take that out and we pull all the reports for you. We'll send them and we explain what everything means. But you can still do it yourself. I'm pro, like if you're on a tight budget, you can use these tools and do it yourself. And use the free versions. There's no reason why you shouldn't be using the free versions. And then just kind of break it down into bite size, which is what we do for you, but to not paralyze you. But
Mhm.
break it down. You can say, I'm going to audit my site traffic and see where everything is coming from. And if you see that you're getting a ton of traffic from social, but you're not getting any leads, they're not really doing a lot on your website, well, then let's focus on the website. Is it that the content needs to be revamped? Is it some kind of messaging issue where they think they're getting one thing when they click onto your link within Facebook, but now they get to your site and they're like, where am I? Is the navigation the issue? So just check a few things. Don't get overwhelmed. Just check a few things and then break it down into bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, I could see where it could be what you're talking about here. The audit could bring back bad dreams of building the website initially.
Yes.
You know how it's like, it's never done. It's never done. I don't want to have to redo this sort of thing. But it sounds as though what you're putting together is not, it's not talking about a rebuild. It's tweaking things. It's like updating your home. You do, you redo the bathroom, you redo the kitchen. Yes, it's somewhat painful to do it, but the end result is you have a more enjoyable space to live in. The same thing could be for the podcast or your podcast website or your business website, or if it's all one the same. It sounds as though if you haven't looked at it for a while, this is something really to take a look at. You may have problems you don't even know about necessarily, or you've come to realize, yes, I have issues and it's this, and this is a good way to kind of figure that out. So what's the best way to get a hold of you to, start the process, or at least ask you a few questions about, hey, I don't know if the audit's right for me, but here are some things. Tell me, is this what I need?
Yeah. I'm always happy to chat and break down and to basically educate. So you can find us at Robles, Robles designs.com. You can find us on social media. Typically, we're on Instagram at Robles Design Studio or LinkedIn. You can always find me on LinkedIn, Yasmine Robles. I'm typically, that's my space now. I hired people to focus on the Instagram and all in TikTok and everything else, but my home base is now LinkedIn. So if you want to message me there, that's great. If you fill out a contact form on the website, it's going to me. So you can do that. You can also go to roblesdesigns.com/checklist, and there's like a really quick overall kind of checklist for what you should be doing on your website. But yeah, I'm always happy to educate and sift through the jargon. I know people email me about things like they're starting a membership site, and there's so many membership sites, kind of like platforms. There's so many platforms out there. And let's say you're a podcaster and you have no idea which platform to even start with. We can just sit down and chat. You can bribe me with a coffee or a taco or whatever, and we can chat about what the differences are and what's best for you, because we all have different goals, different skill sets. Not one thing fits what everybody else might be using.
Yeah, I think you're right with this audit. We do the podcast audits as well too, and it lends in toward a website audit too. And I think it's that clarity of where you want to be in 6 months, a year, or dream big. What do you want it to be in 5 years? Laying the groundwork now through an audit, whether it's a website audit, a marketing audit, a podcast audit, we do the same thing. We take a look at what you're doing right now. What do you want the podcast to do? Well, that may also include an audit of your podcast website or your business website on where that podcast lives, to understand, well, what you want to do a year from now can't happen because of what you have right now. So I think these audits are really important. They're cost effective because, as you said, a lot of that, and we do the same thing with our podcast audits, is a lot of it is you can do this on your own. You can do this on your own. We encourage you to do this on your own, but you can't. We'll figure some other ways to do it and prioritize what the problem points are and making sure that you get where you need to be. But yeah, if you want to go through a podcast audit, you can just reach out to me, mypodcastguy.com. Same thing. If it includes a website look, which it probably will be, we're going to bring Yasmine as well too, because they all work together and they have to move in the right direction for you. But yeah. I think they're important. I really do. I agree. But yeah, thank you for joining me this week. I appreciate it, Yasmine.
Yeah, thank you for having me.